we shall leave behind a seed, in hopes that one day it will grow into a force to stand against the darkness for all time.
Is that the tree of... No way. Buenos dias, mis ponimigos. It's been a long time since my last look at the lore of Friendship is Magic, and a lot has changed, leaving me no choice but to ditch many of the theories I've held dear over the years, including, yeah, you win this one, KP. A moment of silence for the Star Swirl's Discord theory. Okay, that's enough. As it turns out, Discord is Discord and Star Swirl is Star Swirl. But speaking of how Star Swirl the Bearded made his first appearance in the show, Star Swirl the Bearded made his first appearance in the show! That's huge! This character has been shrouded in layers of mystery since he was first referenced in Season 2, and here he is, out in the open. But his past is still very mysterious, and some recent things we've learned suggest that there's something else going on with this character, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's see, what else happened? The main six have a school, Maud has a boyfriend, and Spike has a brand new pair of wings. Huh. Guess it was dragon puberty the whole time. But by far, the biggest thing that happened recently was an in-your-face explanation on how the Tree of Harmony came to be. Soon after the three tribes came together to form Equestria, Stygian gathered Star Swirl and 5 other great ponies to form a team of guardians, the Pillars. When Stygian became possessed by the Pony of Shadows, the Pillars sent him to Limbo, banishing themselves in the process. But before they did this, the 6 planted a seed infused with their magical essences: strength, bravery, healing, beauty, hope, and sorcery. That seed grew into the Tree of Harmony we know and love today, and the rest is history. The pillars of Equestria, the Tree of Harmony, the elements of harmony, the castle, the map, it's all connected into one big story, almost as if all the loose ends of the show are tying up. But not so fast. There's another massive part of equestrian lore that's still a complete mystery. Alicorns. Yep, another video about alicorns, I know. But things are totally different now. Nothing's changed in any big dramatic ways, like with Flurry Face, but little details here and there have raised some eyebrows and led me to some surprising conclusions, to say the least. But enough beating around the bush, let's just jump into it. When we're talking about alicorns, there's a lot of unknowns, so just by the nature of the topic, this video will be rife with speculation. But we're gonna start with something we know for sure. Celestia and Luna became alicorns. Just like Twilight and Cadence, there was a point in the Royal Sisters' lives in which they weren't alicorns. Here's how we know.
The birth of an alicorn is something Equestria has never seen.
Celestia's infamous line makes it clear that no alicorn has ever been born in Equestria before this. Now, many were quick to point out that if the sisters are from before or outside Equestria, this statement doesn't necessarily apply to them. And they're right. But in the very next line, Luna says the birth of an alicorn is
beyond even our understanding.
This means they must remember a time in which they weren't alicorns. Otherwise, the two would just assume they were born that way, and Flurry Heart wouldn't be beyond their understanding. This statement doesn't mean of all the alicorns born, none of the births have happened in Equestria. It simply means of all the ponies, none of them were born as alicorns. That's why Flurry Heart is so surprising in the first place. Not because she's the first alicorn birth in Equestria, but because she's the first alicorn birth ever. But she'll get her spotlight later. For now, let's focus on the 4 alicorns that don't just ruin all your hopes and dreams. So we've established that they all became alicorns, but that doesn't mean they're all the same kind of alicorn, right? If you saw my last video on alicorns, you know the whole theory, the natural versus artificial alicorn thing. Well, crumple that up and throw it in the trash. It wasn't disproven or anything, but it makes a lot of unfounded assumptions. Hate to break it to 2016 me, but there's no evidence to support an alicorn civilization. Looking back, the only reason I supported that theory is because I was just so attached to this idea of natural versus artificial alicorns. I mean, just look at Celestia and Luna versus Twilight and Cadence. These two sets of alicorns are totally different. Except they aren't. Let's look at what supposedly sets them apart. First off, flowing manes. The wavy, ethereal look always made these two seem otherworldly, like goddesses among mortals. But now we know that flowy manes aren't actually exclusive to alicorns. Mistmane, one of the pillars, is just a unicorn, yet had a flowing mane even from early on. But that's not the only thing that sets them apart. What about the height differences? We don't know what causes this for sure, but to say therefore they're different types of alicorns is quite the leap to make. You have to remember, Celestia and Luna have been around for far longer than Twilight and Cadence, like by over 1,000 years. So time might be the factor leading to their differences. Maybe becoming an alicorn changes how you age, so instead of deteriorating, you grow taller. This may be in store for Twilight and Cadence, who already seem slightly taller than average. It could also be that tallness is just another way magic can be expressed, like how T-Rex grew. We really don't know, which is why we can't put these into categories. There's just nothing concrete we can point to that sets Celestia and Luna apart from Twilight and Cadence. So until we have evidence to the contrary, it makes the most logical sense to assume that they're all the same type of alicorn. In fact, let's forget everything we've assumed over the years. It'll help us to take a look at this giant mystery from a fresh perspective. With that said, let's start from the very beginning. What even is an alicorn? We've never been given a straight answer. All we know is it's a pony with wings and a horn, and that's the definition I've worked off in the past. But after looking closely at the lore of the show and what others in the community have had to say, I think it's more than just that. An alicorn is a pony that has magic from all 3 tribes. Not just unicorn and pegasi, but earth pony too. Even if it doesn't manifest in a unique physical feature like wings or horns, earth pony's strength and connection to the earth is still magic and it's still important. Maybe that's why they're called alicorns instead of pegacorns or unicorns. They're a mix of all 3. Now, on their own, each magic has pretty average power, but when you put them together, it results in something much greater than the sum of its parts. The boosted magic of an alicorn. I don't think alicorn magic is a single thing, rather it's what happens when you put the 3 together. Here's why I think that. Just before the dawn of Equestria, something else happened that shows us just how powerful the EUP combo really is. And that's the friendship fire. When Clover the Clever, Smart Cookie, and Private Pansy all came together in that cave, it wasn't just a group of 3 friends. Something much more monumental happened here. After a history of nothing but tribal intolerance, this was the first Earth Pony Unicorn Pegasus friendship. And what resulted was a blazing heart-shaped fire that kept a united Equestria warm, and is still going to this day. Now, it's true that the fire came out of Clover the Clever's horn, but we know this wasn't just unicorn magic. I didn't know unicorns could do that. I didn't either. Nothing like this has ever happened before, but I know it couldn't have been just me. It came from all 3 of us joined together in friendship. This was Ponykind's first look at how much stronger they could be together. There's no denying that this combination is a super magical one, and I'm convinced that's the same principle that makes an alicorn so powerful. The unity of the 3 tribes manifest in a single pony. So that's what alicorns are, but how do you become one? Let's look at exactly what happened to Twilight for clues. She finished Star Swirl's spell, which made the element of magic glow. The rest of the elements kicked in and zapped her to a mysterious realm. Celestia arrived shortly after and sang a song. At the end of that song, the transformation happened. It's easy to think Celestia is the one behind this. She just seems so knowing and in control. It was her that gave Twilight the spellbook in the first place, seeming to know exactly what that would result in. With lines like, "You have proven that you're ready, Twilight," you'd think she was the one who turned Twilight into an alicorn. But as Dulcet Tone pointed out in his great response video, it wasn't necessarily Celestia doing the transformation. To him, it seemed more like she was observing, dramatizing the event at most. This thing seems to happen on its own, or rather, it was set into motion earlier when Twilight finished the spell. Celestia may know what's going on here, and she may have pushed Twilight in the right direction, but that doesn't mean it was her doing. In fact, if any pony besides Twilight was involved in the transformation, it was Star Swirl. Especially when you consider that Twilight was wearing what grew from his magical essence on her head. So it makes sense that the elements, especially magic, would resonate with Star Swirl's spell. But the connection to Star Swirl goes even deeper. In the season 6 episode A Hearthwarming's Tale, there's a scene where Twilight starts gushing about Star Swirl's accomplishments. Give it a listen.
Star Swirl was an expert at everything from transfiguration, dimensional calibration, teleportation.
We get it. Star Swirl's awesome.
It's a funny coincidence that Twilight mentioned those 3 fields of magic. Cause what happened once Twilight finished that spell? She was teleported to a dimension and transfigured into an alicorn. The whole process of becoming an alicorn has Star Swirl written all over it. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that Star Swirl the Bearded invented alicorns. Just like how Twilight temporarily gave Rarity wings, a more advanced spell cast by a more advanced wizard could do a bigger, longer lasting change, even permanent. And I think Celestia and Luna were the first he did this to. Alicorns aren't some mystical race from the heavens. I'm here to suggest that alicorns are a Frankenstein lab experiment conducted by none other than the Pillar of Sorcery himself, Star Swirl the Bearded. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but bear with me. Data from the lore surprisingly backs this up. Look at the relationship between Star Swirl and the Royal Sisters. I used to think Celestia and Luna were older than Star Swirl, since they seem so, you know, immortal. But now we know that the sisters were young at the time of the Pillar's disappearance to Limbo. This got me thinking, what if the sisters didn't come to Equestria from some high and mighty place, but are rather from humble origins within Equestria? From the Season 8 episode Horseplay, we know that Star Swirl was one of 6 unicorns that used to raise the sun. It strained them to no end before Celestia took their place 1,111 years ago. She and her sister would have been young, and I'm willing to bet unicorns, coming forward from a lowly unicorn family. They would have taken over that task with the selfless goal of filling a need. This display of selfless talent and power is probably what put the 2 sisters on Star Swirl's radar, just like how Twilight overgrowing Spike put her on Celestia's. And just like Celestia did with Twilight, Star Swirl decided to take the 2 unicorns under his wing. Well, metaphorically speaking, obviously Star Swirl isn't an alicorn. Or is he? No, he's not. I so got you with that thumbnail though. But what I meant to say is he became their mentor. And we know Celestia and Luna weren't the only ponies who had Star Swirl as a mentor. After the friendship fire, Clover the Clever returns to Star Swirl and tells him all about the amazing thing that happens when magic from all three tribes combine. As a sorcerer, this piques his interest, getting those ideas to swirl around in his head, so he starts looking into it. Of course, as a pony who doesn't yet understand the power of friendship, he overlooks the teamwork aspect and focuses on how to combine the three forces into a single pony. Once he became confident enough in his knowledge and ability to transfigure, he turned Celestia and Luna into alicorns. Alright, pause. Why would he do this? Well, for leadership purposes. As the tribes had just unified and Equestria was still in its infancy, the people could use a strong symbolic figurehead or two to boost national pride and identity. And who better to represent all types of ponies than the two ponies who are simultaneously all types? The alicorn is the perfect symbol of unity between the tribes. But why Celestia and Luna specifically? Of all the ponies he could have alicornified? Simply enough, they were the best candidates. The two sisters were very magically talented, had the right attitude, and were probably already admired greatly at that point. So Star Swirl saw the opportunity and took it. Though it was Clover the Clever and the rest that founded Equestria, I think it was Star Swirl who was mostly responsible for establishing Equestria's rulership through the two sisters. I think he put them in charge of their own realms as well. Luna in charge of the Dream Realm and Celestia in charge of this place, which I'll touch more on later. I doubt the sisters came with those abilities from the start, and it's only fitting that the expert on portals and dimensions would train his proteges in the same abilities. But what about Celestia and Luna's long lifespans? That could be credited to Star Swirl as well. Since he knew that opportunities for rulers like these are few and far between, he would have wanted the royal sisters to hang around for as long as possible, so it only makes sense that he'd throw an age spell into the mix. It's not a stretch to assume he'd be able to. Think about it, there's a whole wing of the Canterlot archives dedicated solely to Star Swirl's spells, and we know he dabbled in time travel, so it's very likely he messed with extending lifespans as well. In fact, there's evidence that he used an age spell on himself. In the Season 8 episode Friendship University, Star Swirl says this: "Dear Twilight, it is difficult to express how grateful I am to you for teaching me the power of friendship. You would think after more than 1,000 years there would be nothing left to learn, and yet even a pony as old as I can continue to be surprised by how much there is to know." Star Swirl seems to be saying here that he has over 1,000 years of experience. And yeah, that's about how long he was in Limbo, but time doesn't pass in Limbo. From the Pillar's perspective, that millennium passed in the blink of an eye. So it just doesn't make sense that Star Swirl should have over 1,000 years of experience unless those years came from before he went to Limbo. That would mean Star Swirl has been around for years and years and years, long before even the founding of Equestria. And how? A simple age spell. With the sheer amount he's accomplished, it wouldn't even be that surprising if he'd been around for far longer than we thought. But the point to all that is, if he did it to himself, he could have done it to Celestia and Luna, and any other future alicorn. Which brings us back to Twilight and Cadence. Star Swirl obviously wasn't there to transform these two, so how do they fit in this interpretation? This is just straight up speculation, but if Star Swirl really did invent the concept of an alicorn and thought that all future leaders of Equestria should be alicorns, I don't think he'd want there to be just two. There are many different things to rule in Equestria, not just day and night. I think Star Swirl's goal may have been to set up a pantheon of alicorns, each one overseeing, safeguarding, and maintaining a different aspect of equestrian life. Of course, Star Swirl knew that someone with his power wouldn't always be around to transform these new leaders into alicorns, and he wouldn't want the perfect potential leaders to just fly under the radar, or walk under the radar since they don't have wings. This leads him to set up an enchantment so that every time a pony sets off a trigger, it teleports them to that realm and turns them into an alicorn. This would mean that even for Cadence and Twilight, it was Star Swirl's magic that did the transforming, the difference being Celestia and Luna received it directly, while Twilight and Cadence had to trigger the enchantment. But what did Star Swirl make the trigger? Obviously for Twilight, it was finishing Star Swirl's spell, but that's too specific to her. Cadence must have done something at least slightly different. From Rarity's line in the Crystalling Part 1, it seems to be common knowledge that becoming an alicorn is something you have to earn by doing some, quote, great princess-worthy deed. I think it's this great deed that triggers Star Swirl's enchantment. But that's too vague. Lots of great deeds have been done. What determines whether they're princess-worthy? Fortunately, Celestia's speech at Twilight's coronation gives us a description of what Twilight did that isn't too vague like Rarity's, or so specific that it can't also be applied to Cadence. But today, Twilight Sparkle did something extraordinary. She created new magic, proving without a doubt that she is ready to be crowned Equestria's newest princess. That's what I think you have to do to become an alicorn. Some way or another, you have to create new magic. Not just a new spell, but a new kind of magic. And I think you become the alicorn of whatever kind of magic that is, whether it be love, friendship, or anything else. This explains why Star Swirl was so unfazed by the presence of a new alicorn. He probably expected it as a result of his enchantment. Now, lots of you are most likely wondering why the enchantment sends ponies to the realm first before transforming them. Why can't Star Swirl's magic just do its thing on the spot? To answer this question, think about his Pantheon of Alicorns idea. Star Swirl wouldn't want a whole bunch of isolated vigilante alicorns running around in sheer anarchy. He'd want them to be connected in some way, so that even if a pony became an alicorn on the other side of Equestria, they'd still get a chance to meet up with Celestia in the same place. This helps Celestia keep track of new leaders, and helps the new leaders better understand their destinies. That's why I think Star Swirl put Celestia in charge of that realm, so that she could maintain order to the system he set up. And as it turns out, Cadence's backstory may line up perfectly with this.
It'd be really nice to have a canon Cadence backstory.
But for now, Twilight Sparkle and the Crystal Heart spell is the best we have, and it still provides some valuable insight. Here's what happens. After she defeated an evil witch, Cadence was surrounded by magical energy and transported to a strange place. A place that no pony except Princess Celestia had ever been. So when Celestia discovered special little Cadence in that mysterious location, her fate was sealed. The princess brought her back to Canterlot to raise her as her very own royal niece. While she knew about Twilight all along, this makes it seem like Celestia didn't know about Cadence until she was found in that realm. This goes along with the idea that the realm's purpose is to form a connection between Celestia and the new alicorns. As a bonus, it makes sense that not even Luna had been to that realm, since Star Swirl was there to transform her directly. She was already connected to Celestia anyway. Unfortunately, that's all the information we have to back up the enchantment part of this theory. The show always tiptoes around how and why ponies become alicorns, but this theory lines up all too well with what we do know, and there's just too many connections between Star Swirl and the alicorns to ignore. In review, Clover the Clever gives Star Swirl the idea to combine magic from the three tribes. Star Swirl figures out how to transform Celestia and Luna into alicorns so they can be Equestria's new rulers and figureheads. He then casts an enchantment so that future ponies who expand on the magic of Equestria can visit Celestia and become alicorns themselves. So there it is. That's my theory on what alicorns are and how they came to be. But to every rule, there's an exception, and this rule is no exception. It's time to talk about Candance, Babby. If this whole theory is true, Flurry Heart would be the only pony who didn't need Star Swirl's magic to be an alicorn. In the sense that she's completely unaltered, that would make her the only true alicorn, quite in contrast to my previous claims. Who knows, the artificial versus natural labels could still be helpful down the road, just not in the way we expected. But for now, it's best to treat her as she is, an anomaly. It could still be a genetic thing. If Star Swirl's magic affected Cadence at a genetic level, it makes sense that her offspring would be the same, but I'm starting to feel like there's something bigger going on with her. The earliest known major magical event resulted from a combination of the three types, and here's a pony that was born with that same combination. I just can't help but feel like they're connected somehow. But that's just a random hunch. What do you guys think about Flurry Heart or anything else I've talked about here? And there's quite a lot. Do you think Star Swirl the Bearded is really responsible for alicorns? Let me know why or why not in the comments. I'm excited to see what you have to say. It'll be interesting for sure. I'll see you guys down there. This has been the Brony Notion, signing out until next time. Bro Hoof.